Hey y'all, my name is Haley. If you're new to my channel or you haven't been here before, welcome. My channel consists of DIY projects and style tips and the occasional like Photoshop, digital, graphic type tutorials. Stick around if you want. Today we're going to be making clay catch-all dishes. I'm going to be showing y'all everything that you need and how to make them. And I'm so excited because they're going to be so cute. Let's get started. Things that you will need for this video are a cutting board or some kind of flat surface, a bowl, a knife, a spoon of some sort, and some air dry clay. I'm going to be making my first clay pot, which is going to be the hand clay pot that I was inspired by. To get this project started, I'm going to start with some clay. So I will link everything that I use in the description below, but this clay is no bake clay, so you don't have to stick it in the oven. But I'm just going to start by just getting it warmed up a little bit. So I'm going to take this clay and I'm going to roll it out. I'm going to take a rolling pin. If you don't have a rolling pin, you can use a glass bottle, but I'm just going to roll it out. So as you can see, I've rolled it out. Honestly, that might be about 1/8 of an inch width. You can go thicker or you have creative freedom here. Okay, so I can get my hand on here. So I'm just going to trace my hand with this little knife. You can use any kind of tools for all of these different things. I'm just using plastic knives. I'm gonna go in here and get between my fingers. Okay, so now I have the rough outline of the shape. I might extend my fingers a little bit because I kind of have short and chubby fingers. I might just extend them a little bit. And you know, this does not have to be perfect. I'm kind of going for the handmade look with this kind of project. So now I'm gonna take this knife and I'm actually gonna cut away this excess. And don't worry about perfect edges. We will go back and fix this later. Beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to save my excess clay and put it in an airtight container. Okay, I'm just going to go back in and smooth some of these edges, just using my finger to push down anywhere that I had kind of made a rough cut. The good thing about clay is obviously it's really malleable and you can just manipulate it really any way that you want to. You are in control here. I'm just going to push in some of these rough edges using my knife, but we are going to go in later with sandpaper and sand down these edges, so it does not have to be perfect at all. I do want to preserve the integrity of these lines though, because they are accurate to how my hand is actually split, I guess. I might just give it a light roll a few times just to kind of smooth some things out. I might push the thumb in a little bit. Okay, that's looking really nice. So, you know, I think I am actually gonna split these fingers a little bit just to give it a little bit more shape and dimension so that I can kind of curl these fingers up separately. So this is the important part. I'm going to take a bowl, and the reason that you want the bowl is because you want to use the curvature in this bowl to mold your catch-all dish. So I'm going to put the big part in the curve, pull these fingers out a little bit just to kind of give it some shape and dimension. I should have gotten a different color bowl, but here we are. When you look at your hand, you kind of have this bulge here. So I may stick something underneath here small just to kind of give it that more realistic dimension. So I'm just going to use this little measuring cup. This little bulge is what I'm trying to achieve here, and I'm just going to lightly place it under there. I don't want it to be too drastic. I'm kind of going to leave it underneath the thumb a little bit to keep the thumb lifted up so that it's kind of like a hand that's cupping. So you're going to want to set this aside and leave it overnight. For the next catch-all dish that I'm making, I'm not going to have to use a bowl because it's just flat with an edge around it. I'm going to take some clay and I'm going to roll it out just like I did before. Okay, so once I get the thickness the way that I want it, which this one I'm doing a little bit thicker than the last, I'm going to decide what shape I want to cut, and for me, I want to do a bit of an irregular rectangle type shape. I'm just going to freehand this because this one I want to be a little bit more irregular and handmade looking. So I may roll this out a little bit more because as you can see, this side is a little bit thinner than this side. I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to use this in just a second. I like this shape. I like it. All right, so I'm going to set this aside. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to roll out some little strips, which are the strips that I'm going to use for the face and for the boundary. And you kind of want to keep tearing it like this because if it gets too long, as you start to do this, the ends will start to get wider than the middle because you're constantly pressing on the middle and you're not able to get to the edges, if that makes sense. You can run your hand along it like this. It just kind of makes it easier to deal with it in small portions. If you use two hands, you can kind of spread it out. Use just a little bit of pressure and just pull your hands away from each other. That will kind of help to thin out your strip a little bit. So it's starting to get thin enough that I think I'm ready to use it as the outline. The best thing to do is to take something and kind of score your edges a little bit, just barely. You don't really want this to show underneath. This helps to ensure that your two pieces will stick together because you can't really get underneath there with your finger and mold it. So I'm just gonna start placing this along the edge. Once I get to where they should meet, I'm just gonna pinch it off and I'm gonna try my best to mold these together seamlessly. So the next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna try to mold these two pieces together very lightly. And I'll go back and smooth this over with my finger, but like I said, we're gonna go back with sandpaper, so it definitely does not have to be perfect. And I'm noticing that this is drying pretty fast because it's already not molding together as well, which is just shows you that this clay really does dry. Don't rush, but you might wanna work quickly because, yeah, it's not as easy to deal with as it was 10 minutes ago. Okay, so now I've got all of the edges kind of pushed together so that this is one unit now. I am just gonna take my finger and I'm just gonna run it along the edges here. And I'm gonna try to kind of smooth out some of those points, but like I said, we're using sandpaper, so. All right, so the next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in and add my facial features. So for this, I'm also gonna need to roll out some more clay. And I'm gonna make two little balls for the nose. I am gonna roll out some more for the long part of the nose. So I'm just gonna go in and soften my edge a little bit here. Okay, so this is a little bit too long. I think I might scoot my nose down a little bit. So I'm gonna mark where I wanna cut it off. So like I did before, I'm gonna wanna make sure that I score the area before I put this on. And for this, I actually think I'm gonna score this piece because that's kind of an intricate part. And I'm gonna be very light with this because I really don't wanna flatten out this shape. So I'm just gonna place this on. Okay, I'm just gonna lightly press. This is not really attached. So I'm gonna have to take this and I'm just lightly gonna press into this in some spots just to secure this down. And I'm gonna try to kind of conceal this. So I'm gonna try to kind of get up underneath where the nose is and just press it into this clay. Okay, so it's already sticking better. I think I'm just gonna do one eye. I'm gonna see about how big do I need this. Very simple looking. Now my clay is actually starting to crack. I'm not sure if you can see that, but that's what I'm saying about work quickly, especially with these small pieces because they do tend to dry out a little bit faster. So I'm gonna retry this. I'm gonna mold this into the shape that I want. Place it. Beautiful. Okay, so now I'm gonna score this. So now I'm gonna push it in like I've done with everything else. Next I'm gonna do the lips. I'm not entirely sure what shape of lip I want, so I may play around with it and kind of figure it out, but I'm gonna try to be quick so that my clay doesn't dry. So now I just have to get it to the shape. I kind of like how it's heavy on this side. I'm gonna score this and then slap it on. Okay, you can see these are looking really nice. I actually had to let these dry for 2 nights. So our next step is to sand down our rough edges. I actually could not find any sandpaper in my house, and I didn't really want to go get any because I remembered I have this little kit for, it's like an acrylic nail set that helps you buff down your nails, but I was like, I can use that to sand down my edges on here. You should probably use sandpaper. So you're just gonna sand down anywhere that it's rough, and I don't really feel like this needs a lot of explaining. So yeah. Do I feel like sandpaper is the better option? Yes. Am I gonna go get sandpaper? No. But just take it from me, go get sandpaper. Okay, so pretty much the last steps left are painting and putting on a clear coat. So you'll also need, for the painting step, a plate or something to put your paint on. Paint brushes, of course. I'm using a pencil to trace out my design. A cup of water, a towel or a rag of some sort, the paint that you are going to use, a gloss of some sort, or just any kind of clear coat. So to get started on the painting process, you're gonna need your clay creations. So for this one, I want it to be kind of like a terracotta color, just all over one color. I don't have the exact color that I want to use, so I'm gonna have to mix it. And for this one, I just want it to be white, and I'm gonna do a black outline around the edges. That's why I'm gonna use my pencil to trace that. So just to start out, I'm gonna go ahead and do a base coat of white on this hand. I'm gonna make sure to get the edges. So I'm gonna let this dry for a second. Next, I'm gonna mix this paint to try to get the terracotta color that I want. So I'm just gonna dab right in here. Okay, so I'm gonna let him dry for a second. Okay, so now I'm gonna go in and I'm just gonna trace this outline, which I want to draw with, with a black. All right, so I'm gonna take this tiny little brush and I'm gonna go over this outline with black. I don't know why my hands are shaking. What the heck? Maybe y'all are making me nervous. I think that's gonna look kind of cool whenever we get done. Gonna let it dry. Now I'm gonna continue with my terracotta colored one. I'm just gonna give it another coat because I don't want it to look painted. I kind of want it to have the look as if it was created with clay that was actually this color. Okay, gonna continue to let this dry. Alright, so it's time for the clear glaze, and I'm gonna use a completely new brush for this because I don't want to risk the glaze being any different color rather than clear. So I'm just gonna spread this all around. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure to get the edges, and I usually apply 2 to 3 coats of this depending on, you know, how glossy I want it to be or how thick I want it to seem. Alright, so I'm gonna set this aside to dry, and I'm gonna move on to this one. So I'm gonna let this dry and I'm gonna come back. So I ended up finishing these off with one more coat of clear glaze. So I'm done. Yeah, they turned out really cute. The best thing is they were cheap and I got to make a video showing y'all how to do it. So thank y'all so much for watching. I hope you had as much fun as I did. If you like this kind of content, please like or comment, subscribe if you want to, whatever. See y'all next time.